Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we dig into complex sources to bring you insights you can actually use. Today, we're wrestling with an amino acid that's caused, well, decades of confusion, especially in fitness circles, glutamine. Our mission, pretty straightforward. Figure out what this semi-essential nutrient really is and what it truly does. Because, people always ask if it's for building muscle. We're diving into the sources to show you that, while yes, it involves with muscle, its most vital role might actually be protecting your foundation, your gut health, how you handle stress, your immune system.
Yeah, and to kick things off, we really have to get that term right.
Yeah.
Semi-essential or conditionally essential. It's a really crucial distinction.
Okay, what does that mean exactly? Conditionally essential.
It means your body is usually pretty smart. It can typically make enough glutamine on its own for everyday needs, but there's a limit to that. When you throw in major stressors, think intense, prolonged physical activity, serious illness, major surgery, even really bad emotional strain, the body's demand for glutamine just skyrockets, way past what it can produce internally.
So it runs short.
Exactly. It basically becomes deficient. And that's the condition where getting it from outside, like from food or supplements, shifts from being maybe helpful to actually necessary.
Got it. And what's wild is just how much of this stuff is in us. The sources say it's the most abundant amino acid in the body.
By far. Yeah, everyone thinks muscle, and sure, that's where the concentration is highest, no doubt. But you find huge amounts in the cells lining your entire digestive tract. Those are called enterocytes. Also in the lungs, kidneys, and critically in the cells of your immune system.
Okay, so it's not just building material. It sounds more like essential fuel for systems that are working really hard all the time.
That's a great way to put it. It's absolutely central for energy. It feeds into key energy cycles, like the Krebs cycle, for example. And because it's so vital for making proteins and enzymes, it's like the go-to nutrient when cells need to multiply rapidly.
Ah.
We see it in the lab all the time. If you want bacteria or yeast or whatever to grow fast on a culture plate, you load it up with glutamine.
So if it makes cells grow in a dish,
Yeah,
imagine what it's doing for repair inside us.
precisely. Repair, regeneration, constant turnover.
All right, now let's tackle the elephant in the room, the biggest myth. Before we dive deeper into the real benefits, we got to address this claim about performance. Does taking a scoop before the gym actually make you stronger, or grow muscle faster, or lift longer that specific day?
Yeah, okay. This is where we need to be really clear and look at the best science, the systematic reviews, the meta-analyses that control for bias.
And the verdict is?
The conclusion is pretty stark, actually. There is no credible scientific evidence that taking an acute dose like 5 or 10 grams right before training gives you any immediate measurable boost in physical performance right then and there.
Wow. So basically, all the hype about instant recovery or better pumps from taking it pre-workout,
Yeah.
that's missing the point.
It's marketing an indirect benefit as if it were direct, or maybe just focusing on the wrong benefit altogether. The no on acute performance boosts is pretty solid.
Okay.
But, and this is really important, but that doesn't mean athletes or anyone training hard shouldn't consider it.
Ah, okay, so here's the pivot you mentioned. Why should they take it then, if not for that immediate kick?
The strategy needs to be aimed squarely at improving overall systemic health and recovery over time. Think about it. If you can manage post-exercise inflammation better, rebuild your gut lining more efficiently, absorb nutrients more effectively.
Then the indirect benefits start adding up.
Exactly. Better long-term muscle building because you recover properly, faster recovery between tough sessions, greater resilience to the stress of training. You perform better across weeks and months, not just in one workout.
That makes sense. A long game approach. Now, for people trying to get it from food, you mentioned it's in proteins, meat, eggs, dairy, and some veggies like broccoli. Any catch there?
Just one main detail, really. Heat. When you cook foods, especially at high temperatures, the stability and the bioavailability of the glutamine tends to go down.
So you lose some of it in cooking.
You do. So while you definitely get some from, say, a steak, if you're someone under significant stress and you need those higher sort of therapeutic doses for recovery, supplements often become a more reliable way to get enough.
Right. Okay. So if the immediate muscle boost is a myth, where's glutamine doing its real heavy lifting? The sources seem to point straight to the gut.
Yes, this is where it gets really interesting, and arguably where its most profound benefits lie in digestive and intestinal health.
Tell us about this athlete depletion cycle. Or maybe it's just a high-stress depletion cycle.
That's a better name for it, honestly. Picture anyone pushing their body hard. Could be a marathon runner, a CrossFit athlete, someone doing intense weightlifting.
Or even just someone juggling a demanding job, maybe poor sleep and trying to train.
Absolutely. Any major sustained stress. The body starts demanding huge amounts of glutamine to repair muscle tissue, manage inflammation, deal with cellular turnover from that stress.
Okay, so it uses up the readily available stuff first.
Right. It burns through the glutamine floating around in the blood plasma and in the fluid outside the cells. But when that runs out,
Uh-oh. Where does it go next?
it starts pulling glutamine away from the place that needs a constant supply for daily maintenance,
Yeah.
the lining of your intestines.
Ah, so it's like borrowing from the gut's operating budget to pay for the muscle repair emergency.
That's a perfect analogy, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And the consequences for the gut when it's suddenly starved of its primary fuel source, they can be pretty severe.
Like what? What happens down there?
Well, the whole intestinal environment suffers. You see an increased risk of things like gastritis, inflammation of the stomach lining, small ulcers, even contributing to conditions like inflammatory bowel disease or colitis. The gut lining itself starts to lose integrity, and that leads directly to malabsorption. You stop pulling in nutrients effectively, vitamins, minerals, even other amino acids.
Which is ironic, you need those amino acids for repair.
Exactly, and it can mess with your gut microbiome too, leading to issues like bloating, gas, fermentation problems.
We hear the term leaky gut thrown around a lot, especially with athletes or stressed people. Is this depletion cycle the root cause?
It's absolutely central to it. Leaky gut, or more scientifically, intestinal permeability syndrome. That's what happens. When those the little finger-like projections that absorb nutrients get damaged from lack of fuel and inflammation, they lose their tight junctions. Tiny gaps or pores form between the cells.
Letting things through that shouldn't get through.
Precisely. Things like undigested food particles, bacterial toxins, inflammatory molecules from food like gluten or dairy components for sensitive people. They leak directly into the bloodstream.
And that triggers the immune system, puts it on high alert constantly.
You got it. It creates this low-grade chronic systemic inflammation because the immune system is constantly reacting to these invaders. So glutamine supplementation in these cases isn't just helpful, it's often vital. It acts like the mortar, patching up those gaps between the intestinal cells, restoring the barrier.
Protecting the gut protects the whole system then.
Fundamentally, yes. And we really need to stress, this isn't just for elite athletes. Glutamine deficiency is a major factor in how anyone handles stress, physical or emotional.
Right. Expand on that. Who else is at risk?
Think about chronic, non-training physical stress. Someone with consistently poor sleep, maybe working night shifts, students pulling all-nighters for exams, even someone doing, say, fasted cardio aggressively every single day thinking it's healthy.
Pushing their system too hard without enough recovery fuel.
Exactly. The sources show these people often somaticize that stress, meaning the stress manifests physically, often as gut problems, chronic indigestion, IBS-like symptoms, and sometimes even unwanted weight loss because they just aren't absorbing nutrients properly.
And the emotional stress connection, that still feels, I don't know, less intuitive for some people. How does feeling stressed wreck your gut lining?
It's one of the most powerful yet overlooked connections. Major emotional stressors, grief, losing a job, chronic anxiety, depression, they trigger the same physiological stress response in the body, same cortisol surge.
Same demand for resources, including glutamine.
Precisely, and it leads to the same gut issues, reflux, bloating, gastritis, ulcers appearing out of nowhere. But here's the kicker, the why we care so much about fixing that gut lining in the context of mental health.
Okay.
It's where your mood regulators are made. Remember the numbers. 95% of your serotonin and about 50% of your dopamine are synthesized in the gut.
Wait, 95% of serotonin in the gut, not the brain.
Primarily synthesized in the gut by specialized cells there. The gut is like a neurotransmitter factory. If the factory building itself, the gut lining, the enterocytes, is crumbling due to stress and glutamine depletion.
The production line suffers.
Exactly. You can't make serotonin and dopamine efficiently if the infrastructure is damaged. So fixing the physical integrity of the gut with adequate glutamine has a direct, profound impact on neurotransmitter function and consequently mood and mental resilience.
Wow. Okay, that completely reframes glutamine. It goes from being a sports supplement to potentially a mental wellness tool.
It absolutely straddles that line. And we also see incredibly important uses in more acute situations like surgery and major trauma recovery. When someone is post-op, fighting a severe infection, or recovering from a major physical trauma like a car accident or even a heart attack, their plasma glutamine levels just plummet.
Because the stress is immense.
Immense. Cortisol shoots up, the body goes into a catabolic state, breaking down tissue, especially muscle, which is made worse if the patient is stuck in bed.
So muscle wasting is a huge risk.
Huge. Supplementing with glutamine, sometimes starting even 10 days before a planned surgery and continuing afterwards, is strongly recommended in many protocols to help preserve muscle mass. It works particularly well alongside antioxidants like vitamin C, beta-carotene, glutathione.
Okay, and beyond these acute crises, what about long-term chronic diseases?
There's definitely a role there too. Glutamine is increasingly seen as key in managing chronic conditions linked to that leaky gut or intestinal permeability issue. Think autoimmune diseases, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia often have a gut health component. Also, cancer treatment. Chemotherapy is notoriously harsh on the stomach and intestinal lining. Glutamine can help patients tolerate treatment better and recover faster, even in conditions like HIV/AIDS where gut integrity is compromised.
So improving the gut barrier improves immune function overall.
They are intrinsically linked. A healthy gut barrier is frontline defense for the immune system.
Okay, let's try to tie all these threads together. We've talked stress, gut health, immune function. How does this all connect back to metabolism, things like managing weight or burning fat effectively?
Yeah, the metabolic connection is really important, but often indirect. If you look at the big picture, research clearly shows a link between lower plasma glutamine levels and increased insulin resistance.
Okay, interesting. So low glutamine is associated with problems using insulin.
Correct, but it's not that glutamine itself is some magic fat burner. It helps improve insulin sensitivity primarily by tackling chronic low-grade inflammation systemically.
Walk me through that pathway again. How does gut health affect insulin sensitivity?
Okay, so improving insulin sensitivity fundamentally requires reducing chronic inflammation throughout the body. This brings in the concept of metaflammation, that's metabolic inflammation.
Right. The low-level persistent inflammation often linked to visceral fat and metabolic syndrome.
Exactly. And where does a lot of that inflammation start? Often, it originates from or is amplified by a stressed, leaky gut. Remember those toxins and undigested particles leaking into the bloodstream?
Yeah, triggering the immune system constantly.
Right. And glutamine is absolutely vital fuel for key immune cells like lymphocytes and macrophages. It's also crucial for a process called autophagy, the cellular cleanup mechanism that's linked to many benefits of fasting or ketogenic diets.
Okay.
So when you're deficient in glutamine due to stress or injury, these immune cells don't function optimally and autophagy slows down. This maintains the inflammatory state.
And that inflammation messes with insulin.
Yes. That persistent systemic inflammation directly interferes with how insulin receptors work on your cells, especially muscle and fat cells. It makes them resistant to insulin's signal.
Okay. I think I see the cascade now. Stress depletes glutamine. Gut gets damaged, leaky. Immune system gets stressed. Inflammation rises. That inflammation causes insulin resistance.
You've got it. That's the critical link. It explains why people often find their metabolism feels sluggish, or they gain belly fat after periods of high stress, surgery, chronic illness, or intense overtraining. It circles back to that initial glutamine depletion, setting off this inflammatory metabolic spiral.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Which brings us perfectly to the practical side. If we accept glutamine as this crucial for resilience, how do we use it effectively? What do the sources say?
First things first, quality matters. The sources consistently recommend looking for glutamine produced through a clean process, specifically vegetal fermentation.
Are there specific brands or certifications to look for?
Yeah, look for quality seals or sourcing mentions like Kiowa or Ajinomoto. They are well-regarded manufacturers known for purity via fermentation.
Good tip. Okay, what about dosage? We've talked about everything from general stress to severe illness, so the range must be huge.
It really is. For just general maintenance or buffering against everyday stress, 5 to 10 grams per day is a pretty standard range.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with acute situations post-surgery, a bad IBD flare, really high inflammation markers, the therapeutic doses used in studies can easily go up to 25, 30, even 40 grams per day, often split into multiple doses.
Is that safe, taking that much?
Generally, yes. Glutamine is considered very safe, even at high doses. The main time you'd need to be cautious is if someone has severely compromised liver or kidney function leading to very high blood ammonia levels, but that's quite rare. For most people, it's well tolerated.
All right, and timing. Doesn't matter when you take it. With food, away from food.
Best taken away from meals. This helps maximize absorption and allows it to get where it needs to go without competing with other amino acids from your food.
So empty stomach is better. When are the preferred times?
Common recommendations are either first thing upon waking or probably the most popular and potentially beneficial time, right before sleep.
Okay, let's clarify that before sleep recommendation. Because there used to be this idea it boosted growth hormone, right?
Yeah, we need to put that one to bed, so to speak. The idea that taking oral glutamine at night boosts GH is largely a myth, or at least requires impractically massive intravenous doses shown in some old studies. That's not why we recommend it at night.
So why do we recommend it before sleep then?
Because sleep is your longest natural fasting period. Taking glutamine then allows it to reach the gut with minimal interference and work on repairing and soothing the intestinal lining while your digestive system is relatively at rest. It's supporting that crucial overnight regeneration process.
Makes sense. And one last detail, the form. Powder, capsules, flavored.
For maximum purity and flexibility, especially if you are dealing with gut issues, a neutral, unflavored powder is generally preferred.
Why unflavored?
It helps you avoid unnecessary additives like artificial colors, flavors, and especially artificial sweeteners, things like sucralose, aspartame, even sugar alcohols like xylitol in some cases. Some of those can potentially irritate the gut or negatively impact the gut microbiome you're trying to heal, kind of defeating the purpose. Pure powder avoids all that.
Great practical advice. Okay, let's try and wrap this up. If we boil everything down, glutamine. It's this conditionally essential amino acid. Not really about the immediate muscle pump, but absolutely critical for basic cellular function, immune health, and maybe most importantly, holding your gut lining together when life throws stress at you.
Exactly. Its real power is in prevention, resilience, and supporting that fundamental gut integrity. That's the perspective shift.
If you're stressed physically, metabolically, emotionally, chances are you're burning through glutamine faster than you can make it, and that deficiency could be undermining your health from the gut outwards.
That's the core message. Address the foundation.
Absolutely. So we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. If stress depletes glutamine, and low glutamine compromises the gut lining, and that gut lining is responsible for making almost all your serotonin and half your dopamine, what other complex mental health challenges or seemingly unrelated physical symptoms might actually have their roots in gut health and could potentially be improved just by supporting that crucial intestinal barrier? Something to think about.